Welcome back on the AM show. That was Benjamin Akakpo with his blunt thoughts, raw and diluted. I think Benjamin will make a great president, but he said he doesn't have any political ambitions. But you listen to the current vice president and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party for the 2024 elections on his plan for the creative arts industry should he be voted into power. This morning, we want to get into this plan, dissect, bisect, and see if really it is feasible and if this is what the industry needs. I'm joined in the studio by Kojo Preko Dankwa, who's convener of the Foundation for Concerned Arts Professionals. It's an honor to have a chat with you in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us. And Robert Clark, who's also a creative entrepreneur. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
We're okay. Not bad.
Yeah,
looking good.
Thank you. The key players of the industry. I'm sure you've chanced on the videos or read excerpts of what Dr. Bawumia said his plans will be should he be voted into power. He talks about tax incentives, creating or providing streaming platforms. Let's start by picking your thoughts on what you think overall. And it's interesting. I was saying that out of the 77-page document or speech, it was just about 3 or 4 paragraphs that was dedicated to the creative arts industry. So let's begin by picking your thoughts. What's your overall opinion on Dr. Bawumia's plan for the creative arts industry? Let me start with you.
Well, I think that overall, I think it is nothing new. Whatever he, put out there has already been said by his own party and himself over and over again from 2016 down to 2020. He hasn't really said anything that is really convincing and new. For me, it's a sampling of his own speeches that he's done and comments that is coming. But I don't fault him, Dr. Bawumia. Much respect to him. I think that the people I really will want to fault is the chameleons. I call them the chameleons, who have really changed from their old self into a new self and really giving him bad ideas. That's what I would say. I know you're going to ask me who are the chameleons. Definitely, I know you're going to ask me. Yeah. And I'll mention names. You remember once upon a time we had a group called Creative Art for Change that was fully dedicated to the driver. When I say the driver, I'm talking about Nanado. When his presidential ambition was on. I could mention names like Bandex, I could mention names like Kojo Preko Mante, Socrates Safo, Dada KD and the rest, Freche Mensa and the rest. All of them were dedicated. And these same people sat down and gave us that Dios 2016 manifesto. And the same people sat down again and gave us the 2020 manifesto. Today, the same people have transformed again and bringing us a new name called Creative Art for Development, with its convener being Socrates Safo, who is also a member of the Creative Art for Change. Okay, so people like that, people of that nature, I want to ask myself, what advice are they really going to give Dr. Bawumia to really see the vision clear when it comes to creative art? I think that it is not him as in doctor, but I think that he needs to really look at the people who are really giving him advice or giving him what he thinks the creative art people need. It is the same people that gave his driver the same info. If he is the mate and he's following, he doesn't want to follow what the driver is doing, then I'm urging him to really look into the people who have come up now and calling themselves the new people, wanting to give him a new vision for the creative art industry. And that's the more reason why I'm saying that whatever he said is nothing new, it is visionless, it doesn't give anything to us because we have seen it, we have heard it from 2016 up until now, and nothing has transpired.
That's an interesting opinion, talking about the people behind him. So it means that he has some backing. He's probably doing some research or receiving advice. And that is what he's basing his plans on. But I'll come back to you. Let me take your thoughts on overall impression on what Dr. Bawumia has outlined for the industry.
To put things into perspective, if you don't mind, because the areas are just 4 specific points.
Yes.
It would be nice if you could read these 4 points and then we can speak to it. So that doesn't feel like, words over something that people cannot connect
with.
Well,
first he talked about tax incentives. He says that he's going to give film producers and musicians a break when it comes to taxes to incentivize their work and potentially lower production costs when it comes to films and music. He says he wants to create a digital platform. That is point number 2. He's committed to creating digital and streaming platforms for Ghanaian artists, and this could provide wider distribution of the product. He also talked about boosting tourism. He says that his desire is to enhance the year of return, December in Ghana, beyond the return, and to focus on attracting more tourists, potentially investors for our artists and the entire industry. And then he also talked about streamlining visas, because most of our artists here, when they get invited to perform on global stages or international platforms, they have issues with visa. Case in point, Blacko had this issue severally before he got into management. He couldn't go out, he couldn't get visas to do that. So these are the 4 points: tax incentives, digital platforms, boosting tourism, and streamlining visas. Okay,
so the streamlining visa, I'm not too sure. I thought it was visa for people coming here.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about
both ways. So he says it comes after they'll do security check. For instance, if you're an artist and you want to go out and perform, or you've been invited to perform somewhere, government will aid you to acquire visa based on security checks and then give you that visa so you can go out and do your job.
Okay, so fair enough. So 4 strong points clearly laid out. So the first, let me start with the first one. I think it's extremely commendable. The first one has to do with the year of return. And year of return beyond the return. And the fact that, it started off and there has been a strategy to ensure that it's still happening. Because I think, 2019, year of return, and then they went to beyond the return. And the beyond the return activities is part of the thing that is actually feeding off the December and GH activities. Now, there were activities already happening in December, but the fact that you've been able to put a name to it, brand it, and project it is sweet, it's beautiful, and it's lovely. That particular activity for me is an example of you pursuing one particular project that has the ability to be able to impact the economy completely. Look at, in terms of GDP contribution right now, top 3. You have the tourism in that particular segment as a contributor, which means that there's something good happening in that particular space. Everybody within the arts is happy when it comes to that particular.
Everybody is happy
with December in GH, year of return, on the benefit that it comes with, because it's a very good thing that has been done. So when he says he would like to continue that, I'm happy, which means that something has happened, it is good, and you would like to, continue making sure that the benefit we are receiving from that particular phase, you want to be able to get that. Just yesterday, I was looking at some of the index about safety, the safety rates in terms of the various countries, and I think this is Ghana is number 2. I have to check that. If Ghana is number 2, I remember IGP engaging people last year. I was part of a few of the sessions about what they could do to ensure that the place was going to be very safe as we were going to get more people to come to the country. So is that one activity, and all of these wings are protecting it and making sure that it's going on well. So I like whatever is coming out of that. Now, that's the spirit of continuity, and I like that. And it was not even actually part of the manifesto, but it's something that you can clearly talk about. Now, if you go to the rest, the 3, the tax incentives, the e-visa, and then the digital platforms. So the digital platform, I'll come to that, but you realize that the e-visa is directly connected to the year of return, because you want people to be able to come in. You understand? So the e-visa is connected to the year of return component. So I'll just bunch them together, because at the end of the day, really, you're just facilitating people visiting, and it's very necessary. The only thing is that we're just chatting, and then I think the National Tourism Authority are embarking on that, or it's said that they're embarking on that in the first quarter of the year. So which means it's something that is already happening. So if it's something that is already happening, then I'm just not sure about it being a vision. You understand? That's one.
I see the point you're trying to make.
Good. Now, on the tax incentives bit, again, if you look into it, there are certain things already in place that you would want to ask why. Because when it comes to the film, the NFA,
the National Film Authority,
yes, they have something with the film fund that is also pending. Unless we are saying that that particular phase will not be completed this year. But if it's going to be completed this year, that it doesn't fall into what's supposed to happen the following year. If it's dealt with, then fine. If it's not dealt with, then what it means is that it's an activity you can pursue the following year. But then again, when you take the entire film industry, the film producers is just one component of the film industry. Would have loved something that was a bit broader. You understand? So yes, it's a good
They've made
element.
other promises too. They've talked about building amphitheaters.
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to that. Now the last one is the tax incentives. Very necessary, and would like to have that. And these conversations have been ongoing. I think that's the reason why he's saying that it feels like there's nothing new. So in the spirit of, so if you look at what we have there, you realize that there are things already happening in the space and would like to have more. Now we have, for me, somebody's going to become a president anyways. Whatever party you are, engage the stakeholders so that we can get information, so that you can use that to develop our industry. And it's not too late, regardless of what has been shared. I just think that it's not enough. Now, let me just go back to this. The MPP's 2020 manifesto.
Yeah.
Here it says that, I'm just reading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just read like 2 of them. We'll set up the Creative Arts Fund in support of artists. That one, what's happening to it? Why am I asking what's happening to it? Year of Return was so good, and they saw the need to be able to continue. So
but you keep saying Year of Return was so good and it's been beneficial, and that you would even comment that he wants to continue this. Yes. But some would argue that the benefits does not come to the populace. It's just a few people in the, family and friends of those in power who have become agencies who directly benefit from bringing these people into the country. So the actual Ghanaian does not actually benefit from, all these foreigners coming to the country when it comes to tourism.
I think that you need to understand what it means when people are coming to a country and how it cascades into economic activity. So somebody comes into the country, the first thing is they'll have to pay. So if you fly into the country, money goes to, revenue is received because it went through the airport, right? Then you have taxi drivers. Uber, whatsoever, all of them, boats, they are, there's money coming to their pockets because once they are here, they have to take rides.
That's just
I'm coming. Then we have food, they purchase. Then there are hotel lodgings, the various nightclubs they visit, all of that. Now, this is not agricultural sector. We are discussing tourism and its benefits, so we can't say it has to affect everybody. It affects the people in that particular sector, and that's why we are here. So that is one side. Now let's get to the event section. The people organizing the events, when you want to put up an event, the stage, light, sound, and all the technicians that are supposed to be in that particular space, the insurance you are supposed to get, the venue you are supposed to pay for, the advertising you do which comes to your platform because they have to advertise on radio, the people who do the voiceover, like everything. So all I'm trying to say is that there's something in that particular space, and I like the fact that they are continuing. So I'm only hoping that in the spirit of continuity, I was hoping that some of the things that are pending, that are very critical to the industry, will become like some of the elements of the forefront, where they acknowledge that, these have not been accomplished, and let us understand the reason why these things have not been accomplished, and give us the vision for where you want to take us to. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, I think that at the end of the day, because we still have we built a digital platform for artists to make their products available to the market. This was in 2020. It's there, you understand? And we're still discussing that now. So it's a bit some way, like what happened? Why didn't we do it? And why are we so? Because if it's being said now, then it's almost as if, why? So it's not going to happen? So then the promise, so those are some of the things. We'll construct one of the biggest convention and exhibition centers in the world at the Ghana Trade Fair company site. What happened to that particular space? And then the various promises with respect to the amphitheaters. These are things that people within a space cannot do for themselves. These are things that we need the government to do for us to enable the industry. So what we are really asking for is enablement. And it's not like these things were your promises. So if the promises are executed, it will enable the industry, for the industry to be able to get ahead. So what they would like to continue, I'm happy. What they haven't done, at least we would like to understand the reason why these things have not been done. and what is going to come out from it in terms of the future, like what the plans are. I think those are the areas I would like to look at.
On the back of all the promises that they've already made to Ghanaians and not fulfilling them, but still making all these promises, do you think these key four points are what we really need? Do we need tax incentives? Don't we have already existing digital streaming platforms? We have most of the production houses who produce films have streaming platforms now where their movies are on, and most of us are already using the foreign platforms. Do we need a streaming platform? Do we need tax incentives now, or do we need the infrastructure and pumping money into the human resources so that these people, giving them the star power and the resources to be able to showcase their talent without any hindrances? Are these what Ghana's creative arts industry need right now?
Very interesting question. And I think that some of them we need. For instance, the tax incentives. I mean, it's one of the greatest things that if it is done by the team, as in led by Bawumia, it's going to be a very great help for the movie industry. Listen, you have foreigners coming into this country to shoot. The kind of processes that they go through, you marvel when they go to immigration. When they bring in their logistics, i.e. the cameras and all those things, the charge that they give them, it's enormous. It is something that we need to see the team, bring that incentives into there so that it will allow room for these people to come in with all these logistics and machines. Remember, these machines and these cameras that they are using, we don't even have a quarter of it in this country to shoot correct movies and good movies. So this thing is also preventing these foreign film operators to come into the country to help us do what we have to do in terms of movie. Again, if a Ghanaian wants to also import, bring in these set of machines, investors within the space want to bring, and then for people to also use. It is also costly for them to also bring in these things, apart from buying it out there. So I think it is one of the things that if they work on, if they stamp their feet on, it will really work for them. Now, the other incentives you're talking about, if you recall, our Deputy Minister for Tourism, Art and Culture, Kojo Preko, when E-Levy was introduced, brought in the idea and said that bloggers, people who patronize YouTube and all these YouTubers and all that, they should be charged. The headlines are there. Everybody can Google it. Check Kojo Preko and E-Levy charges and all that. He came to tell the same sector that they need to be charged because they are working. Now you ask yourself, the same people who are using the YouTube and are already being charged with the process of YouTube, their procedures and policies.
I must insert that data is even too expensive, so Ghanaians are unable to stream the products that we are putting
But here you are, you have your Deputy Minister encouraging, the same government, the same Bawumia, when they introduce the levy, to start or to clamp on us and take these charges. And ask these people who do the YouTube and all that. The moment even their monies come, charges are already been deducted already. Now check again. They still have NHIL thing on it. They still have the E-Levy thing on it. They still have all the charges like they're doing to the betting people. So when you have all these things in place, and then you turn around to come and tell us that you still want to give tax incentives, we tend to really want to understand where you're coming from. That's why I keep saying that the ill advice that is really going to him, because now he says he's in charge. He wants to do something good. He needs the advice of these same creatives. But the people who are really giving him those advice is not giving the correct advice. So for us, the tax incentives is good. It's something like Robert said, it's something that will work for the industry. Now, moving beyond that, I think that there are certain things we need to let them know that it is better other than these few things that they want to do. Now listen, we'll give them free advice. I'll give them two. First one, Bawumia had been giving us things about digitalization, figures, data, and all that. I was expecting that the same people advising him on creative art would have told him that the first major thing he needed to do, or he needs to do when it comes to power, is to get us data. Now, because the industry doesn't have a data, you will have people, government coming, government going, and we will not have anything better for the creatives. Now listen, the same Kojo Preko Mante, I'll use him as an example. When he, under their own manifesto, said that they were going to build studios, okay, recording studios, there are the same people came to tell us that some managers or studio people said that we don't need the studios and all that. He only relied on 2 or 3 people who were commenting on this particular thing because we didn't have data. Now, every policy maker will want to have a data to work with. Teachers have data, nurses have data. So they can tell you they have 2 million people or 2 million nurses in the country. Tell me, who for the last 8 years have told you that we have 30,000 creatives within the space? Out of the 30,000, we have 10,000 who are fashion designers, 15,000 are sculptors, 20,000 are musicians, 10,000 are producers, directors. Who has given you that? So we can't even go to parliament, we can't even go to the same system to say that, listen, finance, this is what our people need. We need to inject almost about $2 million to $3 million into the industry. What are we looking at? We are looking at this sector with this population for us to deal with.
That's an interesting point again. Talking of data and tax incentives, but let me ride on that a little and ask, because you mentioned policies, do we have a working creative industry policy or any legislative instrument that sets the path or, you know, guides the activities of how to actually ensure that our creative arts industry is thriving? Do you want to take that?
So there's a bill that has been passed.
It's passed, yes.
It's passed.
That's Creative Arts Agency.
The only thing is what is intended as a legal instrument, the LI, to make it operative.
Right.
And that's what we are waiting for. So it is passed, but it's not functional. It's
were
not
you
active.
actively involved? Was there any stakeholder consultation?
Oh, there were series of stakeholder consultations that were made. And all
really?
of that. Yeah. There were. I mean.
Is there really?
Well.
So you throw more like
no.
if that's what's
At the end of the day, okay. So there were consultations made. For me, is the fact that it is not fully operational. That's what that's where the question mark is. So we need to be able to have that work. And there's also the cultural policy that I think right now they are the consultations they are reviewing. Yeah. But even the old one, I don't know, because if they are reviewing, then what does it mean? Does it mean that the old one is no more active?
Yes.
If it's not active, that means the space there's vacancy.
Yes.
You know, so again, that's something that is lacking that we need to be able to address. So these things exist, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to give it the power for it to be able to function and helpful. For me, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, and we need to be able to address them. If you're asking about whether, what do you call it, the things that have been mentioned, no, not even, they don't have some of the guidelines, but once they become operational, then it becomes easier because then the industry begins to breathe based on things that have been set aside for it. Now, my biggest challenge right now is that in terms of the things that have been listed, whether or not we need them, clearly we need tax incentives, we need the e-visa, all of this continuity and stuff like that. We need all of them. The digital streaming platform is one of the areas where people are questioning, and there are reasons for it. The success of any streaming platform hinges on a few things. The first one is the fact that you ask yourself, how are you going to stream? It means you are going to stream based on data. And if you are going to stream based on data and data is now expensive, it becomes a bit difficult for you to want to stream. That is one. Then two, so it means until we address the data issue, you are not going to be too successful when it comes to that particular field.
Right.
The other bit is the fact that internet penetration, I think, is about 70% thereabouts. But if you check those who are directly streaming on or who are active on social media, which has got a direct correlation with streaming behavior, it's about just 10 million thereabouts. And so that figure is not going to do much. You understand? So if that figure is not going to do much, then what is going to be the basis for the success of running a streaming platform? Now, there are other streaming platforms that already exist, and they are literally trying to onboard a lot of Ghanaians because, again, these, we are not used to it.
But those are private platforms,
they are
by private
people. They are
yes.
private platforms, and some of them are free, and still they are having difficulty getting people on. So we are talking about the feasibility of the project and what it means. Right. And at what point are you going to have success enough for people to start earning? Because the number of streams is what informs how much you're also going to get paid for. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like if I'm supposed to pay you, the number of streams is supposed to actually connect to it. So the question is, what market size are you going to be working with? When you have the Spotifys who are working in millions and stuff like that, huge numbers, and the question is, how are you going to work around all of these elements? So yes, it can work, but I see it working late. And are there things that we like need almost immediately that can bring about change? It's mentioned data in terms of we understanding the people in the space, and that's critical. One of the areas that I think, after a lot of stakeholder consultations and all the engagement in this particular space, if you want to do for musicians, for example, is fix the royalty system.
Yes.
The issue with GAMRO and all of these things, if you can fix it,
excellent,
you have solved a lot of problems. Why? Because there is evidence enough. And this one came from one of the sessions with the French ambassador when we had some talks. Yeah. They told us clearly that there are even people in France who they've been able to feed their family because of the royalty system from just one hit track.
Yeah, people live on
just
YouTube.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, just one. That's what I'm saying. So if, for example, a whole country we are playing music, royalty collection is a problem, and the redistribution is a problem, and we are not able to monetize, and that whole space, we need to be able to fix it. If we can fix it, it's just like the year of return bit. One project that has got lasting impact, because you see there are three wings of the music industry. We have the live music section, we have the publishing section, and then we have the recorded music section. So if you're able to fix the publishing section, then that's it, because authors and composers are supposed to be earning royalties every time music is played.
Right.
And we ought to be able to do that. And so that area for me is one of the key things, that it's a need. Because there are people who are dying today who don't have any form of, pension. You understand? Like people within the arts, we are not part of the pension scheme. That's another problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are not part. Like I go to work, so automatically I am part of the SNIT. I'm sorted out everything. But if you are in the arts,
meanwhile, you know that I've been to comedy shows, stand-up comedy shows, and right after the show ended, you see GR representatives there coming to take money from
so that's the tax bit that we're talking about.
So they're taking money from these artists, but there's no system in place. Michael Jackson, case in point, after he died in 2009, his children still live on the royalties that he made from his music. So yes, indeed, we need all that.
Yeah, so we need to fix that.
Which begs the question, do you think that the people at the helm of affairs, the ministers and on the people who play at the top of power, need to be creative artists or industry players, also because I remember you from last year saying that what's her name? Jan Kroma was not a legit appointment for.
Sure.
Yes. So do you think that the industry, the people at the helm of affairs must be industry players in order for us to, be successful or thrive as an industry?
So when we say industry, I just want to explain something. Industry doesn't necessarily mean I must be an artist, but I must be a professional within the space. So we have music business professionals, or we have the professionals who engineer success within the space. Once you are a professional in the space, it means you understand. Once you understand, it's a bit easier for you to execute. So if you are an industry person, then obviously we expect for you to be able to understand, appreciate, and be able to, if you have the skill, the experience, the knowledge, and the character to be able to handle that. Why not? You should be able to do that. So for me, that's the most important thing, because knowledge plays key, but a key role. If you take out the knowledge, if you are not an industry person, then it means you must have all the other things that we are looking for.
Right. So
regardless of what it is, you should be somebody who's able to take action and get things done, and to be able to bring about solution, and you should be able to account. One of the things I'm hoping for us to be able to have is a quarterly review of what you've promised.
Right.
Yeah, you have a ministry that is running for 4 years. Every quarter, just talk to us, stakeholders. This is what we set out to do. This is where we are at, and if there are any questions whatsoever, ask, and then we'll give you up. Because you see, accountability is one of the requirements of the Constitution. So it's not like I'm asking for anything out of space. You understand what I'm saying? A ministry serves, yes, so you are there to serve, and you are going to serve for a particular period. Okay, so every 3 months, let me take along the people. Then you talk. Or even if half a year.
Please hold your thoughts. Let me come to Kojo. Do you think that, our current deputy minister was an industry player, and it still doesn't look like his expertise is actually doing anything in Ghana's quest for development, especially in the creative arts industry? Do you think that the actual ministers, deputies, the CEOs and the tourism agency and all that, must they be industry players? And how pivotal would it be?
Okay, so I think that what we should also again know is that the moment they pick you as a minister and then deputy and all that, you tend not to be too active in terms of doing the job. It is rather the agencies that are really, doing the job, and we need much expertise there, even though it's an advantage when you have the ministers or probably the deputy ministers coming from that same area. And that's the more reason why, if you check this particular government, they were specific. They said that, listen, Mark, take in charge. So anytime they say he is in charge of creative art, meaning he is the one that they see to be an expert, or they see him to be someone who can really, shuffle things and all that. But one of the agencies that is supposed to deal with that, supposed to take care of us, is what they've done. The Creative Art Agency, Act 1048, which was established in 2020. It was one of them.
How is that faring?
Bad, extremely bad. Now, Clara was saying that it is left with LI. It is left with LI to really explain further in details what the act is supposed to do and all that. But clearly, we have the driver's daughter sitting down there, not doing anything to help the creatives. So that was one of the things that I was going to say, that Bawumia should rather be looking at that, because the structures are there already. We have fine, serious policy that can deal with the creative art when it comes to the art sector. But here we are not being taken care of by an established, real, under the law, appointed somebody to do that. So if we are talking about wanting to see we have a good direction, it is in the book, lying down. But if we don't have that particular person who is going to lead, plus a board, and here is a president who is supposed to, evoke his own law, under the Constitution 195, to appoint an executive secretary and appoint a board through the minister. As we said, for the past 4 to 5 years, we have not gotten anybody, but rather we still have an illegitimate daughter of hers sitting there and not doing anything.
But what are we doing for ourselves?
We cannot do anything for ourselves when the law which is empowering us to do it. For instance, do you know that creatives would have been much better like GTA or the tourism industry? Do you know that even in the Act, it tells us that we need to take 1%, just as GTA is taking 1% from restaurants, hotels and all that as levy, we should have also taken 1% levy from all enterprises within the creative sector. Okay, that would have given us enough revenue, enough money to execute the projects that we want to do. So that is what the government has done. But clearly, who is pushing for that particular agenda? It's a failure. For me, I think it's one of the things that they need to really hammer on.
That's in line with the Creative Arts Fund.
Yes. That would have also built the Creative Art Fund. Now we have two funds that we need to build. Like you said, the NFE fund. We haven't done that, the film fund, which is supposed to also be done, okay, and help improve the film industry. We haven't seen that. We have the Creative Art Agency, which is supposed to have a fund that we're also not seeing anything coming out from it. So what else do you want us to do? You're talking about incentives, you're talking about this, you have just taken bits and pieces of what is in the policy, what is in the act.
We don't have enough time, so I have two last questions before we wrap this up, so let me just throw that in. What do you think is the role of the diasporans in helping us thrive? We know that one of Ghana's artists, Medical, MDK, he's trying to fill the O2 and he's funding it himself. Don't you think that if Ghanaians outside, the diasporans, could come together and do something to help these artists achieve these dreams, it would also go in a long way to boost our industry, rather than latching on these foreign award schemes like the Grammys? And we actually judge the success of our artists by their ability to gain recognition from international award schemes. VGMA is there. So what role does the diasporans play, again, in our quest for development in the creative arts industry? You go.
I think that's a.
I like the way you giggle before you start.
Exactly, because you've said it in a very simple way, but it's a tall conversation.
Yes. Because
there are so many points to it, and you're saying there's no time, so I doubt.
I
doubt how we can speak to it. first of all, we need to understand that, like I was saying earlier, you know, because you said medical and he said his own money. You see,
he's funding it himself.
No, I'm coming.
I'm saying that he's not getting any support.
I get you. I'm
so
coming.
I don't know if it's his.
There's a problem already we have in this particular space with respect to music business. Businesses are supposed to be responsible for pushing the agenda of artists. So when we say, for example, when I say business, I don't just mean any business. I mean there are music businesses, like businesses that are there for music only. You understand? And when you fix all these things I'm talking about, at the end of the day, you find out that these businesses will exist. So for example, and I'm going to use foreign companies to be able to explain what I'm doing. When we talk about Tupac and his success, but let's not forget there was a Suge Knight who was running the business that was behind him. We talk about Biggie Smalls and his success. Let's not forget there was Bad Boy Records by Puff Daddy that was responsible for him. When Jay-Z struggled hard to be able to break through, to get record labels to support him and he couldn't find, he paired up with Dame Dash. And Dame Dash, you know, and him started running the Rockefeller record label that was responsible for engineering his success. Okay. So there's a business that manages. So when you go to Lynx, so for example, the Lynx Entertainment is the business that is managing these artists. You understand what I'm saying? So the question is, these things we're talking about, is it a one-man business? So is it like a sole proprietorship? Is it a small scale business? Is it a medium scale business? Is it a large scale business? So Lynx, for example, is 20 years now. How old is multimedia? Probably a few years older than Lynx. Yeah, but could Lynx have been a bigger African giant in the space with respect to music? Because the Bad Boy Records I knew of when they were starting, it's not the same size right now. It's a huge company. If Akon had not formed his company, Lady Gaga and co that came out from him wouldn't have been seen. So I am coming to the point. So I understand your question, but your question has to also come with a little bit of insight, because it's not just about
the business side, like you said.
So the business side doesn't exist.
It comes from resources, and the diasporans have the resources. I'm saying,
I don't want to get into that particular space yet. You also have to begin by helping yourself before you're helping other people. So I want to talk about the fact that that particular space is empty, and we don't have music business school in this country when it comes to empowering people. So again, if our leaders are listening, they are looking for things that they can do, that's another area. Because you need to have the professional. We don't have entertainment lawyers. What are the entertainment lawyers? How many are they? And who is, you know, they are lawyers, but they are not, you know, in our space. And we need people to be able to come into our space with clear understanding. You understand? And be able to put things into the right place. So that said, now with respect to the diaspora, what they can do is, if they love your song, you see, you can only appeal to nationality. Come and support your own. Come and support your own. But ultimately, it's a bit difficult for you. You see, you can ask somebody that come and support me, but the question is, when they don't, if they don't, what if they don't like your music? You can't force them. That's what I'm saying. You have to appeal to nationality for them to be able. So that's what I'm saying. That the question, I understand you, but I think there are better ways to be, like, there are more insightful ways to be able to handle the topic, and we need to be able to get into that particular space. And many more analysis, like I'm saying, there's live music. Live music is a whole sector when it comes to the music industry. And when you understand it, at the end of the day, there's supposed to be somebody booking, and there's supposed to be a promoter who is funding these things. So the question you're asking,
we lack the systems, the fundamentals to set the path.
Good.
These things.
Yes, you lack them, and yet, and some of these things are not even local. It's supposed to be foreign, because when you're going to a foreign market, you need the people there to be able to do that for you. So that's what I'm saying. Your question, I understand the question, but
you can't say this regardless.
No, but you know, so there are quite a number of things that we need to look in that particular space.
Finally, though, do you think that the merger of the creative arts industry together with tourism and sports is doing a disservice to creative arts? If you take out creative arts, for example, again, in Bawumia's speech, he went on and on about sports, but he only said 3 or 4 sentences about creative arts. I'll incentivize taxes. I'll bring streaming platforms. Do you think that we need to separate this creative arts industry and treat it as a whole? Because most developed countries, they have most of their monies or resources, tourism, the recognition that they're getting is coming from their entertainment and creative arts industry. Do you think that ours need to stand alone in order for us to see the success that we so much are looking for?
No, I think that we should still maintain it, because it works in tandem with all of them. For instance, you made mention sports. Here we are, we had GTA doing a road tour to Ivory Coast. They did.
Yeah.
GTA did. You ask yourself, what did the creative art industry, or as in the creatives, or the creatives did in that particular sense? They didn't do anything. That's what I'm saying, that if we have the necessary policies in place and we have people managing it, you will see that sail smooth in it. Because again, tourism cannot run without creative art. Now we're talking about beyond the return and blah, blah, blah. It's tourism. They are coming into the country. What are they enjoying? They're enjoying the creatives. They're enjoying the music. They're enjoying the football. They're enjoying every single thing. So we need to find a way of connecting the dots very well. Other than that, by the time you realize, when you have a whole sector, creative art having its own ministry, this is what happens to the system. You're going to have chief director. You're going to have all those people. You're going to have a serious budget for them, okay, to really do a job. You're going to pay them. It's going to be a hefty thing on our wage bill. We don't want that. If you can just connect the dots well, we'll be the best ever when it comes to that.
Let me quickly add to that.
I don't want us to.
Okay. We have GTA.
Yeah.
And they are very heavy. They are working.
Yes.
And every now and then you hear, the director of GTA, they are working.
Yeah.
If we throw in the same weight to the art section, which is a creative arts agency, and it's fully functional, you also see a lot of things happening in that particular space. Right. Yeah. And they're all together functioning underneath the ministry. You understand? Again, so you have 8 years or you have 4 years whatsoever, you have people who are supposed to be working. The question is, what are you doing every day? What are you doing every month, every quarter? Can we know? Is there a way we can help? Can we, because you're working for us, we are the people that you're doing the stuff for. Let us understand what you're doing. Let us throw in what has to be done, and let us work together. Really, that's my point. Regardless
so we don't need a ministry separate.
No, I don't think we need. I think what we have, just like we have GTA. In fact, the National Film Authority, the authority there now, you'd realize that there's a lot of things that they will do for the film industry, and it continues like that. Right. So I don't. Once you have the Creative Arts Agency, if we can just empower them, ensure that the LI required and everything is in place, they should be able to function properly. They need to be resourced, and then they should be able to deliver. You understand? So I think the structures are in place if we can just give them some form of weight and action so that we can get things done. The policies that are supposed to be passed, these things we can't do for ourselves. That's what I'm saying. We can't, the cultural policy, we can't do it for ourselves. It should be done. The LI that we need, there are things that we can't do for ourselves. If they can get that done, that is the beginning of the enablement we are talking about. Then we can move to the next stage. So
if we can't get these things done by ourselves, what are you industry players, what are we doing to make our voices heard? I was impressed by Save Ghana football demonstration and all that, because they've realized that it's time that the government listen to the cries of the people and elevate their grievance, because football is declining. We used to be giants. What is the creative arts industry doing to ensure that your voices are heard, so that Dr. Bawumia doesn't say he's going to list all these promises and then come back 4 years, 8 years later, nothing is done? Let's wrap up with that. You take that.
Okay, so the beginning of that is, so first of all, let's assume that if we go out on the streets, it's going to work. I'm saying let's assume. Because sometimes you go out there and then it's not able to pull much, right? But let's assume that it's going to work. Then it means that we need to do that. I am for everything.
But have you tried it? Have you tried going out and it didn't work?
I'm for everything and anything. So we have access to these people, and then we need to be able to talk to them. We need to be able to hold. For me, okay, let me just mention one thing that for me would work. Accountability every 3 months. It's very simple. Because we know these people, and it's not just about me. I think it's supposed to be a collective, and then the collective is supposed to engage these folks so that we can get them to talk to us. Really, if we can do that, that's fine. Demonstration and stuff, sweet and all of that, but it's not like we don't have access to these people. So if people are listening, I think that at the end of the day, that's one of the key things we should focus on. How do we engage these people in a room? Let's just have a conversation. What is happening? Listen to us and get things done. Really, that
is if they will come.
I think we should be able to do that.
Well,
so she's asked a very important question. We should be able to do that.
I think the demo can also work, because most times some of the things, it doesn't really get to the right people. I'll give you an example. When John Mahama and his government in 2016 brought us NFA, as in the National Film Act, the 1935. They refused to also give us the executive secretary and the board for a period of long time. we had a picketing done by NFA Action Group and FOCAP. Yeah. We did a picketing at the ministry. Within that same space, before Christmas, President Nana Akufo-Addo gave us Juliet Asante and what's his name? David Donton as a board chairman for NFA. Yeah. Even though we have serious issues there, but the point is something was done. That was an achievement through the picketing and all that. We had series of meetings on that, so it can work. Others, I believe what Claire is saying, we need to meet them. They are not like our politicians where we can't meet them. We mingle with them. We see them every single time. Mm-hmm. It is just that they're refusing to. And I want to use the word, maybe they're becoming adamant in making things work for us. So for instance...
So you are speaking up, they're just not listening.
They are not listening to us. We can do all the demonstrations and everything. Maybe when we do the demonstration, our father will just come up from the window and say, what is really happening?
Boss, let me say
that you guys are not telling me that these guys need. You understand? Because that's a stance now.
We need to wrap this up. Yeah.
Final
word.
No,
30 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to say that, like, okay, so we speak on platforms like this and then we air our views and people hear it and all of that. But I honestly believe that we should find ways and means to engage them directly over and over again.
Okay.
Because they are available. Because I like the fact that we talk on air because you want to be able to share and let the majority of the folks know. But if we have access to these people, then we need a collective front in engaging constantly.
I like that you said collective.
Exactly, collective front in engaging, because that's what I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that all said and done, the creatives need a good environment to operate. We need our policies to work. We need that space, and obviously we can really turn the country down for them to know that indeed we have what it takes to give them their GDPs and all those things. Yeah. We have it, and I think that they should spend on us. By spending on us, we need the right things to be done. My advice, again, to Dr. Bawumia is that the chameleons are back. He should not heed to these ill advices coming from these people. They have done it, right. It failed, he doesn't need them.
Thank you very much. So this is the end of this conversation on Dr. Bawumia's plan for the creative arts industry. And we've been chatting with industry players on their thoughts, opinions, and analysis of what is wrong, what should be done, and how Ghana can achieve their quest for development, particularly in the creative arts industry. Kojo Preko Dankwa is convener, Foundation for Concerned Arts Professionals. And we also have Mr. Kla, who's a creative industry entrepreneur, creative arts industry entrepreneur. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
All right.
There's still more coming up on the AM show in a moment. Don't go away. We will be right back.